This is a trigger warning. This episode mentions themes of depression, suicidal ideation, DV, and trauma. If any of these topics are triggering to you, please click away now and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.
And I'm going to hold the mic today because I honestly feel like that's a better vibe. So, hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Mental Mingle with Bree. I'm Bree. This is episode 5, I believe, maybe 4, depending on how I film things or how I release things. I started this podcast last summer, but never released it due to some things happening in our personal lives here. And yeah, I don't really want to get into it today, but maybe I'll do a podcast about that later. I'm flying solo today, no guests. And today's episode is going to focus on my personal experience with ART therapy, or accelerated resolution therapy, and what I think about it overall. So, before we get into it, I have to make a quick disclaimer. As with every episode of this podcast, I need to remind you that I am not a psychiatrist or a mental health professional, and everything I say here is my opinion only and should be taken with a grain of salt. I am not an expert in this field by any means. I'm just a person with a mental health condition who wants to share my story. Before we get into ART therapy and what it is and my experience with it and my opinions on it, we've got to get into the self-care tip of the week. So, this week's self-care tip is to take time to relax and just do something that brings you joy. For me this week, it has been playing video games, so The Last of Us 2 I'm finally playing. So just taking some time to play that is a really good way to relax and calm myself. Yeah, sometimes you really just need a good dopamine hit to bring you back down to earth and remind yourself that it's okay to have fun and not work all the time. ART therapy. What is ART therapy? Or just ART, because the T is therapy. So ART stands for Accelerated Resolution Therapy, and it is very similar to EMDR, if you have heard of that, which is an eye movement therapy. But here is the definition that I am taking right from psychcentral.com. I don't know how legitimate this source is, but everything I read on there seemed to be good, and it was written by a doctor, so we're going to trust it. So in quotations, Accelerated Resolution Therapy, or ART, is a relatively new evidence-based therapy. It may be an effective intervention for trauma, depression, and other mental health concerns. ART uses eye movements aimed to help quickly alleviate symptoms, which are often related to past trauma. Research is ongoing, but this therapy has the potential to help people with trauma and other mental health conditions, including anxiety and depression. End quote. So let's break that down a little bit. It's really often used for PTSD or trauma-related mental health conditions, and I first came across it through my therapist, who recommended it to me after I opened up to her about my history with DV. For funding purposes and ad purposes, I'm going to try to keep things friendly here on YouTube, but on Spotify, I guess I can say whatever I want, I think. I don't know. For those who don't know, DV is short for domestic violence. I was in an abusive relationship in high school, and I don't know if I've already done an episode on that because, again, I recorded most of my episodes that I have so far in the summer. I don't think I did, but I will be doing an episode on that when I'm feeling up for it and ready. So let's get into my experience with ART therapy. I'm going to try to keep this section unscripted, and there's no outline for it because I feel it would be more authentic to recount my experience in real time with all of you. And maybe a little more scatterbrained, but I will try my best to stay on track. I've done 2 sessions of ART so far, and I found it to be one of the most transformative experiences in my entire life. I came away from it feeling like a different person, like my trauma was no longer weighing me down. It felt like I had taken off an elephant size of weight off of my shoulders. Needless to say, it was extremely beneficial for me to do this ART therapy. So let's just start from the beginning of when I went into the room with my therapist. She sat very close across from me, and it's an eye movement therapy. So basically, she went over with me what the goal of ART was and went through a whole script of how it works and all of this. And then she had me think about a specific memory. In the first session, especially, we thought about the first time my ex was abusive to me physically. First time he hit me. So she had me just think about that situation, and then she had me look at a list of words on a sheet of paper and say out loud each word that memory made me feel. So some of them were angry, embarrassed, irritable, hurt, things like that, or happy or whatever. And then from there, we did a body scan. So I closed my eyes like you would in mindfulness meditation and just scanned my body from head to toe. So I scanned my body like I would in mindfulness practice. And she asked me if I felt any pains or sensations leading up to recounting this memory. And so if I had a feeling that I was feeling at the time, it was anxiety. And so for when I'm anxious, I often feel a tingling in my palms, and I started to feel that. And so I told her that, and she said, okay, forget about the memory for now. Just think about that tingling in your palms. And so I thought about the tingling in my palms, and I had to watch her hands as they went in front of my face doing this. So you have to keep your eyes focused on her hand and the therapist's hand, and just follow with her hand. And you're focusing on that sensation while they're doing it. She would stop and she would ask me, okay, did the sensation move or change in any way? And if it moved, then you would think about the spot that it moved to. If it got worse, you would think about it again. If it didn't change, then you would still think about it again, and she would do it again. If it went away, then you would move on. You do another body scan and see if there's anything else. If there's nothing else, then you can move on to the next step of ART. If there is something else, then you would do the same process with that symptom that you were feeling. So eventually then you get on to recounting the memory in your head. You don't have to say it out loud at all, which is amazing because sometimes in therapy it can be a daunting task to recount these kind of memories. So you're just thinking of it in your head and watching her hand while you think of it. I'm going to say her because my therapist is a woman who identifies as a woman. She had me recount the memory. The first time through, it was missing a lot of detail because my brain has blocked out a lot of those details because it was traumatic. And she would ask me to think about how it made me feel. If I felt any sensations, we would do a body scan. And if I felt any sensations, we would forget about the memory and just focus on that sensation again until it goes away. Then I would start the scene over in my head and see if any new details would come up. And they did. It was much more detailed the second time around. And I was open with her about what those details were. And my therapist is awesome. She's such a cheerleader and amazing woman. I'm really grateful for her. She's amazing. And she's just such a grateful for me. She swears and she's just real. And I love it. I told her what he did to me. She's like, well, that's a shitty thing to do because he is a piece of shit, you know? So it's awesome because we can laugh and do things like that. So then after the second round through, I would recount the scene again, but this time I'm the director of the scene and I can control anything and everything that happens in it. It doesn't have to be how it actually happened in real life. I get to control how the scene plays out because I'm the director. So I would, and I did that, and I changed it. I didn't even let him get a chance to hit me the second time I recounted this. I ended things, and I kicked him out, and I called him out for being a piece of shit. And in the director's cut, I was a boss-ass bitch, and I didn't let him have any effect on me. I didn't let him hit me. I didn't let him talk to me in the way that he would talk to me in real life. After I recounted that scene, and meanwhile, my dog just growled. Meanwhile, while this is all happening in my head, I'm still watching the therapist's hand do this in front of my eyes. If you're listening and not watching, basically they would wave their hand in front of your face and you'd have to track it with your eyes. After that, after the director's scene, as she called it, I would think about how I felt in that scene. I told her I felt proud, I felt empowered. And she said, great, hold on to that. Do a body scan and see if you feel any physical sensations of what those words mean to you. So I did, and I felt this smile in my cheeks. And she said, okay, awesome. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on that feeling of the smile in your cheeks and spread it across your entire body so that you feel it everywhere. I was able to do that. I was able to spread this sensation of a smile in my cheeks to go all the way down to my toes and to the tip of my head. And it just felt so incredible to feel that empowered and that proud of myself and happy. It was really transformative. And this isn't even the end yet. after that, she wanted me to destroy the memory. So I had to think of a way I was going to destroy it, and I chose to burn it. It wasn't just that memory. It was up to me to see. I had to picture every version of me with trauma related to the feelings I felt because of that memory. And I had to bring it all to the table, bring it all and put it in a pile, and then light fire to it and watch it all burn until there's nothing left. And then when there's nothing left, then she would stop waving her hand in front of me. And then she would ask again, just make sure, is there anything left? Like, is there any ashes or any pieces that didn't quite burn? And if yeah, then you do it again until everything is gone. If no, everything's gone already, then you can move on to the next step. So then she wanted me to picture myself walking across a bridge into my new life without the burden of this trauma and these horrible memories. And once I got to the other side of the bridge, I had to picture, she asked me what I saw there. And I said, my boyfriend and my dog, a big beautiful house and a meadow, the sun is shining and everything is beautiful. She was like, awesome, I love that. And I had to picture myself walking around that scene. And then I did another body scan. And what did I feel? I felt happy. I felt free. I felt like a new person. And so I had to spread that feeling throughout my whole body again. And when I came out of that, I finished my session and I walked to my car and I just started bawling. But they weren't sad tears. They were extremely happy tears. Like, I was so happy and I felt like a new person. Like, I felt like I had completely transformed in that hour and a half that I was in that therapist's office, because I was able to relive one of the most traumatic memories of my life and get through it, change it in my head, and be able to look back at that memory and not want to die and not want to cry, not want to have a panic attack. I can think about that memory now and it doesn't affect me, because now I think about the ART session and how it felt to burn that memory, how it felt to tell him off, how it felt to tell that abusive ex to get the fuck out of my room and the fuck out of my house, and that he wasn't allowed to talk to me like that. It made me feel empowered to not be a doormat anymore, because I am such a people pleaser and I always just I'm such a yes man, and I'm learning how to not be that way because of therapy, and ART really helped. So yeah, I mean, the second session, we did a more general session, and then a memory came up to me of a different ex who was emotionally abusive, and how I lived in a different country, and how he made me feel like I was a bad person for following my dreams and moving temporarily to another country. I lived in Germany for a while to be a nanny, and how he would text me first thing in the morning for me, last thing before bed for him, and it would be such negative stuff, and it would just ruin my day. And he would call me a bad person for leaving and call me selfish and all this. And yeah, sure, I was selfish for leaving, but sometimes you have to be, and it's not always a bad thing to be selfish, is what I've learned since then. And again, ART really helped me to get rid of any trauma that this caused me. But this ex asked my permission to cheat on me while I was gone. And originally I said, you know what, whatever. If you need to do something while I'm gone, fine. Just don't tell me about it. But then he asked again, and I said no, because I changed my mind. I wasn't okay with it. The only reason I was saying that was to appease him originally. And then he blew a gasket at the fact that I changed my mind about him cheating on me and being okay with it, because I was not okay with it. And then he still went on Tinder anyways and started messaging girls, and he told me it was just for friendship. And I said, well, why do you need friendship through text messages if you have me? And he said, well, because they're here and you're not. I'm like, so if you meet up with any of these girls, I'm breaking up with you, because that's cheating. He was emotionally cheating anyways. But in the same ART kind of method, when I recreated the scene of reading his text messages and fighting with him, and him telling me, oh yeah, I left out a part, he would tell one of the girls he matched with on Tinder about our problems, and she would always side with him, and he would rub that in my face. And I was like, well, yeah, she's gonna agree with you. She's just trying to get in your pants. You met her on Tinder. But through ART therapy, I'm able to look back at that memory, and when I changed the scene, I just dumped him. I didn't let him be in my business anymore. I was like, you know what, if you're going to act like this, then I don't want to be with you. And I told him off, and that's what I wish I had done. But I can't go back and change history, so it's fine. But in my memories now, I don't look back at these things with the negativity that I used to, and I don't feel anxious, and I feel empowered to trust people again. And mainly, like, my boyfriend, who never gave me a reason not to trust him. So, like, my current one, not any of the exes. I have a bad history. You can ask any of my friends. It doesn't really apply anymore because I found a real gem of a guy who you did meet in episode 2. But yeah, that's kind of my experience with ART therapy. My overall opinion on it is that it is incredible. It's transformative. If you have any kind of trauma, whether it's PTSD or just a traumatic experience that you went through, I think it's worth a shot because honestly, it changed my life and it gave me so much empowerment and freedom from my traumas that I can't imagine anymore what it was like to be so weighed down by my trauma and live with so much crippling anxiety because honestly, I am not that anxious anymore. And I don't know if it's just because I'm on medication for bipolar disorder. That's the thing. This is going off on a tangent, but like, that's the thing with bipolar medication is that it works so well that you're like, I'm cured. I don't need medication. And then that's when you kind of go down a spiral. Like lately, my brain's been like, oh, well, you haven't had a manic episode in a long while. Like, it's been like a month. So you must be cured now. But like, and I haven't been depressed in a really long time, which is incredible. But it's not that simple. I have to stay on my medication. I know that. My psychiatrist has told me that I'll be medicated for the rest of my life, and that's fine. But sometimes it's fun to be a little delulu and think that I'm cured when I'm not. It's just that my medication is working, and I still have like sometimes hypomania, I think, with this medication, but I don't get manic anymore. Like, well, I haven't gotten manic in a while. And you know what? I shouldn't be saying that because I've been manic on this medication, but it's not like I'm aware of it when I'm on my medication, and I'm able to use my tools to try and get myself out of the manic episode or prevent myself from doing things I'm going to regret on a manic episode. But I haven't really had a depressive episode in, I want to say 4 or 5 months, which is incredible. Although my time, like perception of time, is always way off because of my bipolar disorder, I think. So who knows, the last time I was depressed could have been like 3 months ago, and I don't know because I'm just terrible with timelines. Anyways, this is not about my bipolar disorder. This episode is about ART therapy. So let's get back to that. I guess I kind of finished my whole thoughts on that. So we do have a song of the week this week, and I wanted to keep it on theme with ART therapy. And this week's song of the week is a song by Chilio, an incredible local band from Calgary. And it is called Only Way Out Is Through. And it's a mental health song for sure. And it's about how the only way you can make it through these, at least this is how I perceive it, the only way you can make it through tough times and trauma is by going through it. And ART really, I think, pushes you to go through what you're feeling and the emotions you feel and the sensations that you feel when you think about these memories. And it forces you to change your perceptions of them by going through it and then destroying it. So for me, this like song is the epitome of what ART is for. But yeah, okay, so it's time for the random question generator. And I use the one from the University of Washington. It has a cute little rubber ducky on it. What is one of your favorite smells? Interesting. I'm going to do 2 questions of the day for the random question generator. What is my favorite smell? One of my favorite smells. Honestly, I love the smell of rain. Rain is like my favorite weather, which is weird, but I feel the most inspired when it rains, and I feel more in tune with my thoughts and myself when it rains. And the smell of rain, it just gives me that feeling of being close with myself and close with my thoughts. So I think, yeah, the smell of rain is one of my favorite smells. Ooh, this is an interesting question. What is one place that you've traveled that you never want to go back to? Okay, so I've traveled quite a bit. Not as much as some people, but one place that I would never want to go back to. So I love Germany with all my heart. I loved living there. And yes, I know I'm privileged because I am a white female who appears to look kind of German, who speaks German fluently. So I know there's some political issues in Germany with racism. I was very aware of it. And because of my privilege of being a white woman, I did not experience any of that negativity personally, but I did witness it with some of my friends who were from Latin America, for sure, and from strangers who were from Syria, because I was there during the Syrian refugee crisis. But that is beside the point. I love Germany with all my heart. I loved living there, and it is one of my favorite countries in this world. But I will never want to go back to the Dachau concentration camp. It's important to go, I think, to a concentration camp from the Shoah, which is the correct term for that, the genocide that was obviously committed against the Jewish people of Europe, as well as other ethnic groups like the Romani and various others, communists, the LGBTQ community, the disabled community. It's very important, I think, that everybody go at least once, but I do not want to go back because it was traumatizing. I remember that moment I stepped through those gates, I felt a cold chill, and I felt sick to my stomach the entire time I was there, and it felt like I could hear screaming. And again, because I'm bipolar now, and I know that, I don't know if I was hallucinating or if that's just something that happens to everybody there, to a lot of people there, because it is a sick place. It is a devastating place, and a reminder of how awful humans can be to each other, and why it's important to be kind to everyone and to show love to everyone and not to harm anyone. That got us off to a dark note. So I'm gonna answer one more random question because I'm hoping to get us off of this dark note. Because this was such a positive episode, I don't want to end on a dark note like that. Oh, good. Okay. This is a light, easy question. What is your favorite candy? I'm not much of a sweet tooth, actually. When I crave sweets, I crave fruit. But yeah, when I crave sugar, I crave fruit. Like, I always crave watermelon. But, like, I'm not much of a chocolate gal. It's just too sweet for me. Come at me. I do like gummies, though, and my favorite has gotta be either Swedish berries or fuzzy peaches. One out of two, but I can't decide. So you get both as an answer. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear or watch more like it, then please make sure you subscribe, like, and comment on this video, or review us on Spotify. That really helps us in the algorithm. It's going to help us grow and continue our conversations about mental health. If you'd like to tell your story or have any guest suggestions for me, please send them in an email to melodicimageryphotos@gmail.com. That will be in the description of the video or the podcast episode on Spotify, so you know how to spell it. Thank you so much for watching or listening if you're just listening on Spotify. And stay healthy and take care of yourselves, guys. Bye!